Everyone, just want to show off some features of my editor. It is called Jack's Editor because my name is Jack and I don't have a very good imagination. You can invoke it on the command line with JE and give it a file and it will open that file. It is a Vim inspired editor, which means I can use H, J, K and L to move around, but I can also use motions like W, E, B, $, end of line, caret to go to the start of line. Things you would expect. At the bottom here, it's showing that we are in normal mode, but I can also enter visual mode, start selecting things. I can do select inside word, I can do change inside word, I can undo things, I can select the entire paragraph, I can make this uppercase, I can undo that, I can repeat things, I can delete things, I can paste things, all the kind of things you'd expect. I can format things, I can use brackets to navigate between paragraphs. If there's a Vim motion I've used in the past, it's important that it makes it into my own editor because I have like a decade of kind of Vim muscle memory in my fingers. Some other things that we have is built-in buffer completion, so Control N, Control P navigates backwards and forwards, Control E will cancel that. I have built-in buffer search, so I can find all the occurrences of and. I can navigate to the next and previous, just like you'd expect in Vim, and it centers those. I can jump to specific lines in the file by typing it in the command bit there. I can use ZZ to center it, and all these things help me kind of navigate through the files. There's also some other conveniences that help with both kind of vertical and horizontal navigation. Let's say I wanted to jump to this word here, single, but I didn't want to have to type it or manually type 48. Well, I can press enter and it paints a bunch of targets in the current buffer. So I can type HZ and it will jump me to that. If I want to jump to the word executor, I can type enter again and FS, which is quite nice, and that's inspired by the kind of the way Helix does it, and also by the kind of Vim Leap plugin. Another feature of Vim out of the box is the F key. So if I type the F key in normal mode followed by a character, it will jump me to the next occurrence of that character. If I keep typing F, it will keep seeking forward. If I do capital F, it will go backwards. You can see here I'm just highlighting all the occurrences of the current target in a special color, which makes it more obvious, and this is inspired by a kind of clever F plugin, which I've used extensively. So I had to quit out this file and just invoke the editor without any arguments. By default, it will open up a file explorer in the current directory. If I'm over a directory here and I press L, it will open that directory, and if I'm over a file, it will open that file. And this is something inspired by Vim Vinegar. Just like Vim Vinegar, you can bring back the explorer by typing a key combo. So here we have a file. It's a Python file. It has pretty syntax highlighting. I have rudimentary LSP support built in, so if I'm over a definition here and I want to jump to where that's defined, I can type G and then D and it goes to that, and then Control O will take me back. You can see now that I have two buffers open. We're showing a kind of buffer tab line at the top. I can navigate back and forth between buffers using the unimpaired mappings, like so. So now we're in a Python buffer. I can start typing Python code and things just work kind of as you'd expect. If I were to open a bracket, it automatically closes that bracket. Kind of table stakes things for a modern editor. If I press backspace, those things all get removed. So let's define something here. Now I'm at the end of a line. If I were to press enter, it would indent me the correct number of spaces. Backspace will delete the correct number of spaces for me. Statements will be indented as you'd expect. So let's define a function here. You can see in the side it's added kind of git gutter ASCII art to show that lines were added. If I were to modify a line, you can see lines have been modified. If I were to delete a line, you can see lines have been deleted. So now we have a definition here. Let's try and call this with some incorrect code. So it actually supports tools out of the box, so I can call mypy on this file. You can see here I've forgotten to actually type it correctly for the example. Again, if we call mypy, eventually we'll get a type error here, and it will just jump me automatically to that first error. To prove that that's working, I can just go anywhere in this file, rerun mypy, and now you can see all of the results have been populated in this list. I can jump to the next result with square bracket q, going previous and backwards, just like the kind of vim location list. So we can now fix all those errors, get rid of this function here, rerun mypy, and it's happy. Okay. That kind of results list extends not only to tool calls, but also like global grep search. So if I were to search for all the occurrences of square, you can see here I can then navigate between all of the kind of results in the results list. I can close it, I can reopen it. It's just like a unified list for tools to store their results. The next thing I want to show off is kind of file search. There's multiple ways you can open a file. One of them is just by typing the path to that file explicitly, but that's not exactly a great user experience. So a lot of people are used to fuzzy finders. This bakes in a fuzzy finder that's inspired by FZF Vim. So if I were to go to a test, let's go to this test file, I can show off another tool usage, which is a built-in PyTest tool. So I can invoke this. We can see it running in like a real virtual terminal there that pops up and then disappears when the tests have passed. But I can do things here like add a breakpoint and debug inside my test if the test happens to fail. Then continue, and it will just succeed. So let's say I've got a test that's failing. I'm going to insert 2 random failures here. We can rerun PyTest. You can see the 2 failures. It's automatically going to jump me to that first failure, and I can page through them backwards and forwards using the same kind of bindings. So that's kind of grep searching and the results list. The next thing I kind of want to demonstrate is the kind of built-in kind of tree sitter text object support. So if I'm over a node here, I can type VAN to select the node under the cursor. I can type AN to expand my selection, and IN to shrink my selection. So once I've selected the whole function, I can kind of navigate back and forth between kind of top-level nodes in here using the kind of unimpaired mappings. And these are the same mappings as provided by default in neovim. At this point, I've got multiple buffers open, so I might want to open some splits to manage those buffers differently. It handles splits the same way Helix does, so they're kind of automatically resized as you open them. You'll notice here that because I've got multiple splits open, my active split is kind of highlighted and the inactive split is dimmed, and this is kind of inspired by a few popular neovim themes that implement the kind of same feature. All of the themes in my editor do that out of the box where possible. Speaking of themes, why don't we show off some of the themes? It has kind of a Helix theme previewer built in, so I can tab through all the different built-in themes. These are all themes that at some point I've used in the past, but I think look good, so hopefully the out-of-the-box theme experience of this editor is nice. You can see here that it's actually showing the kind of light variant of all of these different themes, if the theme happens to have a light variant. So here is a popular theme, the Grovbox theme. If we were to query the background here, it says that we're on kind of auto mode, and that's because this editor follows the operating system kind of preference. So if I were to toggle to dark mode, you'll see here I automatically get the kind of Grovbox dark mode. If I toggle back to light mode, I get the light mode. If you don't like that, you can always explicitly set dark or light or auto, and once you're happy with the theme that you've chosen, you can go into your config here, set that theme, and then reload your config, so I'm back to the theme I started with. The final thing I want to show off is the kind of Vim sandwich or kind of Vim surround support. So I can do things like hover over this bracket and do SD bracket here to delete around the brackets, or I can do SDB as a shortcut for that, or SD quote to delete around the quotes, or SDQ as a shortcut for kind of any quotes. I can do SAIW brackets to surround inside words. I can do, I think it's SR to replace the current surrounding brackets. As you'd expect, all seems to kind of work. And yeah, that really is a kind of whistle-stop tour of my editor. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I've been daily driving this for a while. I'm in two minds whether to kind of make it open source, because it's kind of really only intended for me, but if there's enough interest, maybe I will do so.